Imagine spending $30,000 on your daughter's dream wedding, only to receive an email telling you not to come. That you could watch it on live stream instead. Because, apparently, your presence might make the groom's family uncomfortable. That was the moment I realized I wasn't invited to celebrate my daughter's love. I was just the wallet. I stared at that email for a long time. My hands were shaking, not with sadness, but fury. And right then, I made a choice. If I wasn't worthy of being part of their joy, then they'd feel the full weight of my absence. My name is Janice Miller. I'm 60 years old, a widow, and for most of my adult life, a paralegal who worked long hours so my kids, Clara and Matt, could have everything I never did. Clara, my eldest, was always ambitious. Private school, summer theater camps, a fully paid-for college degree. All from me. I never complained. Never asked for a thank you. Just wanted to see her happy. Clara met Jordan during law school, a nice enough guy, if a bit privileged. His family lived in a different world. Country clubs, destination holidays, monogrammed towels. I always felt like a guest in their universe, but I didn't mind. Clara was in love. And when they got engaged, I offered $30,000 to help with the wedding. She hesitated, said Jordan's parents would be covering most of it, but I insisted. I want to be part of it, I said. She smiled. Said she was grateful. I should have known better. Looking back, the signs were there. Little things. Subtle digs from Jordan's mother, Veronica. She'd say things like, "We'll keep it elegant, nothing too provincial," while looking directly at me. Or, "Don't worry, Janice, we'll make sure you're comfortable during the ceremony." Comfortable. Like I was some old coat they didn't want to clash with the decor. Matt noticed it too. He's my younger one, less polished than Clara, but sharper than people give him credit for. After a particularly tense brunch with the future in-laws, he muttered, "They're not just rich, Mom. They're allergic to reality." Still, I held my tongue. Bit back every retort. Because this wasn't about me, it was Clara's day. Or at least that's what I kept telling myself. As the wedding planning picked up, I stayed on the sidelines. I wasn't asked to help pick the dress or join the venue tour. Clara said everything was being handled by a professional planner, and that I should relax. So I baked cookies for the tastings, offered to help assemble invitations, and checked my email daily for any updates. But nothing came. No calls. No texts. Just silence. Then one afternoon, I overheard a conversation Matt was having on the phone. He didn't know I was home early. I caught just a snippet. "She doesn't even know Mom's not invited." My heart stopped. Not invited? What the hell did that mean? I didn't confront him right away. I sat with it. Let it fester. Tried to tell myself I misunderstood. But deep down, I already knew something wasn't right. And I wasn't just being excluded. I was being erased. And that was the beginning of the end. 2 months before the wedding, I got the email. Not a phone call. Not even a voice message. Just plain text, cold and polite. "Mom, Jordan's parents are envisioning a small, intimate ceremony with just immediate family. We'd love for you to tune in via live stream. It means so much to us that you're part of our day, in spirit." In spirit. I sat at my kitchen table, the same one where Clara used to do her homework while I made her grilled cheese after school, and I just froze. The words blurred. I reread it 3 times, each time hoping I'd missed something, some hint that it was a misunderstanding, a placeholder message sent by accident. But no. It was clear. I wasn't being invited to my own daughter's wedding. I was still alive. Still breathing. Still paying. And yet suddenly, I had become an inconvenience. A name on a checkbook they didn't want in the wedding photos. What gutted me most wasn't just the exclusion. It was the way she tried to soften the blow with corporate language. envisioning, in spirit, means so much. If it meant so much, why was I being cut out like I didn't matter? When I confronted Matt later that night, hoping for some explanation, some brotherly outrage, he just sighed and said, "Mom, don't make this a big deal. It's not about you." That was the moment the knife twisted. Of course it wasn't about me. It never had been. Not when I worked 3 jobs to send her to private school. Not when I sold my grandmother's ring to pay her tuition deposit. I wasn't the mother who raised her. I was the mother who funded her. I should have known something was coming. A few weeks prior, Clara had mentioned wanting to make the day extra special, asking if I'd consider another contribution, this time $40,000, for a last-minute venue change. "It's this beautiful vineyard in Sonoma," she'd said. "Veronica found it. It's perfect." I hadn't given her an answer yet. I told her I needed to check my finances. The truth. I was ready to give her the money. I was always ready, because I thought I was investing in love, in being included. But now, with that email glowing on my screen like a slap to the face, I realized what I really was, a ghost in her narrative. A silent donor who should know her place. That night, I sat alone on my porch with a cup of chamomile tea and stared out into the dark. And something inside me snapped. Not in anger, not in rage, in clarity. They didn't want me there? Fine. But they weren't getting another cent. In that moment, I didn't just feel hurt. I felt used, devalued, and worse, discarded. And people like me, we only get thrown away once. After that, we burn. The next morning, I walked into the bank with calm resolve and canceled the wire transfer, $40,000, frozen mid-flight. It felt like slamming a door without ever raising my voice. I didn't call Clara, didn't send a follow-up. I let the silence stretch, let it grow teeth. At first, nothing happened. Then the messages started. One text, then another. A voicemail with her trying to sound casual. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. Everything okay?" Followed by one with more urgency. Then a string of calls in the same day. 12 messages in total. Each one a little more frantic than the last. The final one wasn't a voicemail. It was a screenshot of an invoice from the vineyard. No payment, no venue. She didn't write anything with it. Just sent the image. As if I was supposed to see it and spring into action, like a trained dog waiting to fetch. I didn't reply. 2 days later, Matt showed up at my door. He didn't knock like usual. He pounded. Loud. Angry. I opened it slowly, already knowing the face I'd see. His eyes wild, jaw clenched. He didn't even say hello. "Mom, you're sabotaging Clara's wedding." I looked at him. Really looked at him. My son. The boy I once stayed up with all night when he had pneumonia. Now a man who saw me not as a person, but as an obstacle to someone else's fantasy. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. I simply said, "No, honey. I'm just no longer financing my own erasure." He stared at me, like the words didn't make sense. Or maybe they made too much sense, and he didn't want to admit it. He muttered something about how Jordan's family had a vision for the ceremony. About how I was being dramatic. Then he left, slamming the screen door hard enough to shake the glass. That night, I sat in my quiet living room and let the anger wash over me, but not drown me. Because somewhere under the betrayal, under the heartbreak, there was a strange kind of peace. I had stopped begging to belong. And once that weight lifted, I began to rebuild, not in vengeance, but in clarity. I signed up for a local pottery class, something I'd always wanted to try, but never had the time or the permission. I volunteered at the Community Literacy Center on Thursdays, helping adults learn to read with patience and dignity. I started spending Sundays with Marcia and Elaine, 2 friends I'd met through book club, both of whom had been through their own kinds of betrayal. We laughed. We drank too much boxed wine. We healed. I stopped trying to force myself into rooms where I was only invited as a wallet, not a person. But that doesn't mean I wasn't watching. Clara hadn't given up. I knew her well enough to sense she was circling for another ask, another plea, another angle. And I was ready for it. Because when someone tries to write you out of their story, the smartest thing you can do is start writing your own. A week before the wedding, it came, Clara's final attempt. The email was different this time. Not formal, not bullet-pointed or emotionally sterile like the last one. It started with, "Hi, Mom." That alone told me they were running out of options. "Things got complicated with the vineyard," she wrote. "We had to downsize to a smaller venue. We're keeping it really simple now. But we'd love for you to come. Please. Just as a guest. Just as a guest." After I had offered $30,000 upfront. After they'd planned a picture-perfect wine country wedding on a foundation built with my savings. After they tried to erase me with a live stream link and a politely worded exclusion. Now they wanted me back, but only because the walls were caving in. I almost laughed out loud. It wasn't an invitation. It was a salvage mission. I didn't reply. Not with words, anyway. Instead, I opened a fresh email tab, created a new anonymous address, and sent a tip to a popular wedding columnist in our area. She ran a light, gossip-tinged Sunday column about local wedding trends, social mishaps, and behind-the-scenes vendor stories. I kept it vague enough to protect myself, but sharp enough to land. Tip: heard about a lavish vineyard wedding falling apart last minute because the couple decided to cut out the woman who funded half the bill. Some say the karma's arriving early. I added a few discreet details. Enough to pique interest, not ignite lawsuits. 2 days later, the column ran the story under the heading, "When the check bounces, so does the dream venue." It didn't go viral, exactly, but it circulated just enough. A few shares on local forums. Some subtle chatter on Facebook wedding planning groups. Whisper networks started humming. Vendors got nervous. One photographer apparently backed out, citing unexpected scheduling issues. A catering deposit got delayed. People don't like drama attached to unpaid invoices. I never mentioned names. I didn't have to. Truth, when it's laced with just enough oxygen, floats to the surface on its own. I didn't wait for Clara to call. I didn't sit by the phone hoping for regret or realization. On the day of the wedding, I made a sandwich, packed a little cooler, and drove to the beach. The same one I used to take Clara and Matt to when they were small, when joy was simple and no one kept score. I found a quiet spot in the sand, put on my sun hat, and turned my phone off. Not on silent. Not on airplane mode. Off. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting to be chosen. I had already chosen myself. 2 weeks passed. No calls. No emails. Just the quiet hum of my new, unburdened life. Until a knock came at the door. I opened it, and there stood Clara. No makeup. No styled hair. No designer bag. Just jeans, a hoodie, and the face of a woman who had walked through fire and finally realized she wasn't flameproof. No "Hi, Mom." No excuses. Just this. It all fell apart. I said nothing. Let her speak. Jordan's parents turned on me. Said I mishandled the budget. That I shouldn't have counted on your second payment without confirmation. They backed out of half the costs. We had to move the whole thing to Jordan's aunt's backyard. Plastic chairs, grocery store flowers. It wasn't the dream. Still, I didn't say anything. Not because I was punishing her, but because for once, I didn't feel the need to rescue or absorb. She looked at me, eyes full of unshed tears. I didn't come for money. Or pity. I realized I treated you like an ATM with a pulse. And when you stopped giving, I panicked, not because I missed you, but because I didn't know how to function without your sacrifices. That's what hurts the most. I'm sorry, Mom, not just for the wedding, but for making you feel disposable. That word, disposable. It echoed everything I had felt for years and had never been able to say out loud. I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't see my daughter. I saw a woman, a flawed, broken woman trying to grow out of the same soil that once rejected me. I stood still. Then, calmly, I said, "Thank you for saying that, but this time I'm choosing me." She waited, expected a hug, maybe a tearful reunion. I didn't give her that, not out of bitterness, but because this wasn't a movie. This was real life. And in real life, healing isn't always followed by a musical swell and a warm embrace. Sometimes, it's just a quiet boundary held with grace. She nodded slowly, understanding. We stood in silence for a while, an uncomfortable, honest silence. Then she turned and walked back to her car. I didn't watch her leave. Instead, I walked into the kitchen, brewed myself a cup of tea, and sat by the window. The house felt peaceful, not empty. That night, I pulled out the ceramic bowl I had made in class. Imperfect, a little lopsided, but mine. I ran my fingers along the rim, feeling its weight. I had spent decades giving away pieces of myself to be seen, valued, loved. Now, I wasn't asking for a seat at anyone's table, because I had built my own, strong, steady, and set for one. And that was more than enough. If anyone has ever treated you like a stepping stone, someone useful only when they need something, let this be your quiet permission to step back, to stop giving endlessly, to stop hoping they'll notice your worth. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You're the author of your own. This isn't just a tale about a broken wedding. It's about dignity, boundaries, and the bravery it takes to say, "No more." You don't have to yell. You don't have to fight. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is disappear from the tables where love has a price tag. Have you ever walked away from someone who made you feel small? Tell us in the comments. Your truth might give someone else the courage to rise. And if this story struck a chord, hit subscribe. Because here, we don't just tell revenge stories. We tell stories where self-respect wins and quiet justice echoes louder than any apology ever could.